Rachel Tessman from stampyourartout.com, and I'm here to share with you my outside-the-box ideas that I created with the Safari Celebration February 2022 Paper Pumpkin Kit from Stampin' Up! These kits get delivered straight to my mailbox each month and contain everything I need to make fun, creative paper crafting cards and projects. This month's kit contains supplies for making 9 greeting cards, 3 of 3 different designs. Each kit includes a publication, like this one, with directions, full-color illustrations, details about the kit, and a link to access a how-to video so that you can assemble the cards or projects as shown. The kits also include inks and stamps that can be used again and again, even after the consumables are used up. This February kit included a rich raspberry-colored ink pad and this exclusive stamp set. The kits are a Stampin' Up! Product, so the colors, images, and supplies always coordinate with many other products they have. I'll be using some of these in the alternate projects I create today. You can find the items I used listed below and linked to my online store, along with links to learning more about paper pumpkin kits, starting your subscription through me so I can spoil you with exclusive gifts, ideas, and prizes, joining my Paper Pumpkin fan club on Facebook where you can see even more alternate project ideas shared daily, and if you're watching my video on YouTube, a link to my website where I've shared photos of the projects that you're going to see today. I received a large clear block in my first paper pumpkin kit to use with all my future stamps. That tool and my scissors are the only extra items I really need for completing my kits as is. But you'll notice that I substitute that block for the ergonomic Stampin' Up! Blocks. I also use my larger version of the ink pad and some additional adhesives such as my Stamp and Seal. You won't need these, but they are available products from Stampin' Up! And they're a bit easier and quicker for me to use while I demonstrate in my video. By the way, if you're looking for ideas for past kits, visit my website at stampyourartout.com. Click on Paper Pumpkin in the top menu, then choose Recent or Older Posts. I've been creating and sharing alternates since March of 2013 when Paper Pumpkin kits first began. I'm excited to create, so let's get started. The 2 cards that I'm going to share first are going to be cut from 3 of the halves of the card bases. So I'm going to use this half, this half, this half. I'm only going to use half of each of the 3, and then I'm going to use some basic black cardstock. I'm going to cut this cardstock in half. Actually, let's score it first. So we're going to have a card that opens up like this, and that means that I'm going to cut it this way, but I'm going to score them both in this direction. So I might as well score them both together. Half of 8.5 is 4 1/4 inches. I'm going to bring my edge of my paper to the 4 1/4 inch mark. I'm going to score through the middle with my lighter blade, and then I'm going to rotate my cardstock and bring it to the 5 1/2 inch mark. That is half of 11 inches. Now I'm going to use my dark blade and I'm going to slice and cut these 2 in half. So now I have 2 card bases from my basic black cardstock. If you are going to have any extra supplies on hand to make alternative projects with your paper pumpkin kits, I highly recommend basic black and basic white cardstock, and then a pack of the basic white envelopes. Of course, you'll want to replenish them every once in a while too. So now we're going to take these 3 pieces and we're going to cut them to 4 inches each, and then we're going to cut in the other direction at 5 1/4 inches. And I had to pause the video because I messed up. You're actually going to cut this one a little differently. We're going to cut it at 3 3/4 inches. So we're not going to bring it to 4. We're going to bring it in a little bit more, and we're going to slice it there. Now, because I messed up and I need to save as many pieces of my kit as possible, this is the card I messed up on, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this way. And then you're going to take that piece, and you can see it's still just as wide. We're going to cut that one in half so that it measures 2 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. So we have 2 of those. And if you recall, the other 2 pieces were cut at 4 inches, and then I said to turn it the other direction and cut it at 5 1/4 inches. So I've done that with both of them. Then we're going to take these pieces that measure 4 by 5 1/4, and we're going to cut them diagonally. Now, for our card base, let's do that first. We're going to cut a diagonal line here also. That's why these are going to get cut diagonally. So we're going to go from this bottom corner, so imagine this being the front of your card, this bottom right-hand corner to the top left side, which meets with the score line. So you're just going to line that up in your trimmer. This point here with this point down here. And you're going to go ahead and slice. Now you don't want to push into a corner like that. You actually want to start somewhat on the paper, slice down and away, and then you can come back in and continue the slice on through. So we're going to do that with each piece. Now these pieces are going to get layered with diagonal pieces here. So that's why we want to cut these as well. So you're going to cut these lower right to upper left. And so now you can kind of see why we needed to do two separate colors, because I wanted to have that two-tone in here. And if we were just to slice one, it wouldn't be as colorful, right? But you could certainly just do one if you want to save on your card pieces from your kit. Then we need another piece coming through the middle of the card, and that's what these pieces are for here. So we need to create the bases for those, and that's why the second basic black piece comes in. So we're going to cut that piece to 3 inches wide. And because we're doing two cards, let's go ahead and cut another one to 3 inches wide. And then we're going to rotate and we're going to cut a 1/2 inch off. So we're just going to move it to this little spot here. That will make this piece 8 inches by 3 inches. 1/2 of 8 is 4. So now we can score right through the middle. And we have another base that this piece is going to sit on like that. You'll need one more piece for the inside of the card when it's fully open. And so you can pick any one of the halves that you had cut from. Now, again, I messed up on my yellow, so I can't use that. I'm going to go ahead and use the, I think I'll use the green. And we're going to cut that to the same size that we cut our yellow rectangles. So we're going to bring it to the 3 3/4 inch mark. We're avoiding the scored area of the card, by the way. And then we're going to cut this in half. So we have 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 for each of those pieces. We're actually going to use the white side. That's why it didn't matter which one. Let's go ahead and put our trimmer aside, bring in our pieces in our bone folder, and we're going to add our diagonal pieces to our card base. So these pieces need to get adhesive. If you are using a liquid glue, you could do that without this trick here, but if you're using a tape runner like the seal adhesive, if you put them right next to each other, you can start up in the corner, and by overlapping your adhesive over both of them, you're getting right up into that corner of each. We want to make sure that all the edges have adhesive. Okay, I think I'm going to, you know what, you could really do your cards the same exact way if you want to. So I have another card that I've finished already that's looking like this, but let's go ahead and move these in the opposite direction. I'm going to open up the card so I can see that black triangle a little bit better. And I'm adding this layer. It's got about 1/16 of an inch all the way around. You'd think that it would have 1/8 of an inch, but it doesn't because of the diagonal cut. But when you put this piece on here, you're going to have a slightly wider gap through the middle. So just keep that in your thoughts as you're taping down your pieces, because this is this gap times 2, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit thicker through the middle. Then we need this base. We're going to score that, or fold that with the bone folder, and then we'll add our, actually we're not going to add this yet. We can add the inside piece. No, we should not. Let's stamp these. Let's stamp them first. Always stamp and then add, just in case you make a mistake. So let's bring in our ink, and we're going to trim this down just a tad. 3/8 of an inch I'm going to trim off here, just so it's a little shorter. And then we're going to take our stamps, and I have one that says amazing. I'm going to start with this one first and stamp that, keeping in mind that I also want to have enough room for my sentiment piece that's going to go above that, that says you are so. So we'll stamp that right about here. You know what would be a good tool to bring in right now is this guy here. The Stampin' Pierce mat. The Stampin' Pierce mat, that's what it's called, because it allows you to stamp with photopolymer and have that like a foam under. It's a foam mat, and it allows you to have a little bit of cushion so that you stamp a little bit clearer. I have a couple of these. I have one that's do not pierce, and then I have another one where I pierce it, so if I need to poke holes in something or whatever. But it's a Stampin' Pierce mat, so it's for both. Now let's take this message that says "You are so," and we're going to stamp that right above, like that. So that piece is done. This is going to sit vertically in our card. We're actually making what's called a joy fold card, and I got the idea to do it vertically from my friend and fellow demonstrator Ashley Carlson. She had given me a vertical version of the joy fold card, and I was like, duh, that's a great idea. Been seeing all of these horizontal ones. So thank you, Ashley. Okay, we'll stamp that right here. And you could actually stamp a lot more images in there if you want to add the yay or the leaf or confetti or whatever. You can go ahead and do that. Now we can add these pieces to this base. So we'll move this out of the way. We're going to put adhesive on the back side. This is now considered the back side. And we're going to put it up towards the top. It's going to be in the top of this card. This one needs to have this added to it, but we're going to, you know what, we probably could have adhered that. We're going to just give this a little bit of a crease there. I think what I was going to do is I was going to stamp it, then lay it on here, and then cut it with my scissors, which is why I didn't stick this on yet. But we can go ahead and stick that on. And this is going to get some dimensionals. So let's go ahead and add a couple of those. And we're going to bring in this big, nice dark purple leaf that has the same color as the ink. I've already added the tiny little glue dots to the back side from the kit, so we'll just take those pieces off. And then, once you have the adhesive backings off of everything, you're going to line these up. And you can either go directly to that black edge, or you can come in a bit. I think I'm going to come in a bit on mine. And I'm going to tuck my leaf so that it's hidden slightly underneath the "You Are So Amazing" banner. But I'm going to have some of it come off the side here, because on this joy fold card, this section is not going to be affected on the right. We're going to adhere this to the diagonal base, and we're just going to slip it in like this. So I've opened it up, I've slipped it in, and then I just want to hold on to the center piece here and center it so that these edges all look pretty darn even. And it's okay if it's not exact. This is one of those things you can just eyeball. Once that's on, then we're going to bring in this cute little monkey guy. Chimpanzee, is that what he is? And we're going to add adhesive. Those tiny little glue dots that come in the kit do come in handy when you're trying to get adhesive onto tiny pieces like that. We're going to open up our card. We're going to add him right here, and he's going to kind of have his hula hoop going off to the left a bit too, because that gets covered up when you close the card. So we've got that, then that. Okay, I'm bringing in a couple more items to finish this card off. On this little cutout character, we have a heart. Did you guys notice that? So I flipped it over and I added a little dot, again an adhesive dot from the kit, a little glue dot. Peel off the backing. And just add that to the inside, right around there. And then let's go ahead and add some fun little embellishments here. These are called Artistry Blooms Adhesive Back Sequins. I'm just adding a little bit of glitz on the inside, and then we'll do the same thing with this dark pink color. And you notice I did big, big, small, and then big, small, small. I did that on purpose because I thought if I'm going to make a ton of these, I want to make sure that I'm using my sequins wisely, because this one has two small and a big on the outside and opposite on the inside. So these are my two cards. I have them looking pretty much the same on the outside, and then on the inside they look like this. Those were so much fun to make. Again, they're called the Diagonal Joyfold card, and I did a vertical version of what you typically would see if you were to like Google that or something. We're going to take this yellow scrap and we're going to pair it with the bag that the embellishments came in. The bag measures 1 3/4 inches by 5 1/8 inch. So we're going to cut this 1/8 of an inch shorter in each direction. We're going to cut it to 1 5/8 inches by 5. This is going to fit inside of our bag, but first we need to stamp on it. So yes, you can even use the things that you would normally throw away. Hang on to those. All right, so we're going to take our, we're not going to use the birthday this time. I think we're going to use the You Are Amazing and You Are Fantastic images. Let's bring that Stampin' Pierce mat back in, and let's just put a little bit of grid paper on top of that. So I just kind of did a little random pattern on the back there so that the words create a background, but yet they also send a message. We're going to be able to slip that inside this bag, but before we do that, let's decorate this side now. This tall character here, is that a gazelle? I don't know. She fits perfectly on here, and so we're going to add her to this, and I think we might even put some sequins in there that we just had because they are so fun, and they're a lower profile than the embellishments that came in the kit. So there's that. And I may have gone a little overboard on the sequins. I like things that glitz. So now we're going to add our piece into this bag. And when we do so, I'm adding it head first. And be careful going over all those little sequins. Kind of have to move them out of the way. Seal it up, flip it over, bring in your Stampin' Pierce mat that is made for piercing. And we're going to take the piercing end of our Take Your Pick tool and we're going to poke a hole right towards the top, about 1/4 inch down. And then we're going to add a length of ribbon. And you can decide what length you want. I've got about 10 inches here. We're going to fold the ribbon in half. Then we're going to grab a tool called a needle threader. And we're going to bringing the loop end through that little loop of the needle threader. And we're going to just bring this part through. You might have to pull a little firmly because we've got real nice thick ribbon here. And we want that loop to come on through. We can slide this off. Then we can take the ends of this ribbon, bring it through that loop, and we can cinch it up. And now we have a bookmark. Isn't that adorable? Everybody wants a celebratory bookmark. Great thing to add to a card if you're going to give, if you want to give a gift from far away, you can give a bookmark, maybe with a little cash or something too. The next idea I have for you is a card, and it's going to be cut the same way as our card bases in the kit. However, I believe that using something other than a white base is going to really show off the vellum that we're going to play around with. And if we flip it this way, oops, got a little dust there, then you're going to have a white base, right? We don't want that. But this side is too patterned for what we're going to do. So we have to go to our outside source. We're going to go ahead and cut this piece in half at 5.5 inches. And then we're going to score it at 4.25. And then we're actually going to trim off about 1 inch. And you can trim that off from either side, but that will become the front of the card. Let's set that aside. Let's take our envelope from the kit that coordinates with that color. So we're using Soft Succulent for our card base here. And we're going to go ahead and open this envelope up. Now you do have this really pretty pattern here, and normally I say, you know, just cut off the edge of each envelope to open it. But I think you're going to be ruining the pattern on this side if you do that. So go ahead and just tear like this. Once you have that part open, you can remove even more of this excess stuff here. And you have this really pretty pattern coming through here that we didn't cut into. So if you want to save your envelopes that way, you can do that. Otherwise, you can do the trick that I've taught before, where you just slice off about 1/16 of an inch, and then you can easily open your envelopes up. Plus, you also save your designer paper a bit more on the inside if you're not peeling away. Now, I know that there are tricks for, you know, like microwaving or heating or doing that sort of thing to loosen the glue. Yeah, that's up to you if you want to go through that kind of work. You'll have to Google it. I've never done it. I just have people telling me to do it all the time. All right, so we want to have a little strip that's going to measure, I think it's going to be measured 1 inch by 5.25, and it's going to go here, and then we're going to have another piece that's white. So we're going to grab those pieces from the envelope in the kit. So we're going to slice at this score line here, and we're going to go just inside of it. Make sure that you have a sharp blade. The sharper the blade, the less fringe you're going to have coming off of that. Set that aside. Then we're going to cut into this, and we want to cut a 3-inch wide piece and a 1-inch wide piece. And then these pieces are each going to get cut to 5.25. This one's going to become the pattern paper that we have, and this one's going to become the white, and it has a slight little pattern along the bottom. But that's going to be fun. We want that. Why not? So that will go here, and our card will close like this. Now we need to decorate the outside. Those layers are going to be done with an embossing folder and some other little parts from the kit. Embossing folders. I don't show those off too much in my videos that I share with Paper Pumpkin Alternatives, because I don't want people to feel like they have to own a ton of stuff in order to do alternate projects, especially if that's what you get, is only Paper Pumpkin kits. But I have to tell you, we have a small version of the tool that you would need for using embossing folders. It's called the Mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And it's like half the cost of the larger one. And it's perfect for these narrow embossing folders or tinier dies. So this is, you know, this will fit right in here, and you've got this really wonderful size piece of vellum that I think we need to emboss on. So we're going to set that up in here so that we have lots of leaves towards the top. See how that works? So this is going to imprint these leaves and some down here. So you get a bunch of platforms that come with the kit, and they tell you right on it, use with standard embossing folders, use with thin dies. So what we want to do is we want to layer 3 and 1. So the 1 is, oops, it's the base. Hang on. Nope, here it is. I had it right the first time. It's this one here. So 1 and 3 are going to sandwich this piece here. Okay? We're going to slide those in nice and straight into our machine. We're going to crank the handle, and you can hear a little bit of cracking. That's normal. You can hold on to the top of the machine. Oh, mine is squeaky. I need to use it more. I'm always using my bigger one. Okay, so now what we do is we take this out and we open up our embossing folder. And the wonderful thing that embossing folders do with vellum is when the vellum is pressed or bent, the fibers of the paper break and they whiten. It's just an amazing, magical look. So that's going to be added to the front of our card like this, along with some other pieces that are going to go like this. And I've done the stamping. So I've stamped with fresh freesia and rich raspberry, the color that comes in the kit. So you can see I've got some beautiful leaves down here. I've used the rich raspberry for the sentiment on this piece and this piece. And I used those colors because those are the leaves that I picked out to go with the card. Now when I was looking at this connection here, I thought, you know what, there maybe needs to be a little white separating it. So I'm going to change my card up a little bit, change of mind, and I'm going to score in about, I think, 1/8 of an inch will be good. So I'm going to use a sticky note or post-it note here to just hold on to my paper so that it doesn't move on me, and I'm going to add that score line. Then I'm going to slowly fold just to make sure I've got everything going in the right spot, and I'm going to add some adhesive through here. Now because this is such a narrow little area, I'm going to use some scrap paper, and we're going to add adhesive so that we're just getting it on that little tiny area that was scored. Okay, I barely went over that score line. I just went to the right of it. So now I'm going to fold this down and I'm going to burnish this piece in place. There was just too much of the same green. I was thinking this would be a lighter shade of the soft succulent cardstock, but it's really, really close. So now we have our fun little white gap there. We're going to go ahead and add this piece down there. And we're just going to add this so that when the card is closed, it's right up next to it, so it's flush right with that edge. Okay, and then this piece will go on the inside, and there'll be a small green gap there because of that folding over of the piece that I didn't think I was going to fold over, but it's all good. It's going to work. And you see how I made sure that this little area here of the envelope carried over also? So I love that. That looks way better than I thought it was going to look. Yay. All right, we're going to press that down with the bone folder. We're going to add our vellum. Now our vellum is going to be positioned in the middle with this circle pretty much holding it in place. You can use multi-purpose liquid glue and sponge it on the back side. We could do that, except I'm going to add a few little embellishment pieces, and that will help to hold our vellum down in other areas too. So at this point, we can just kind of see that this can be applied here, which means we can only put adhesive on, it moved on me, on this half over here. Again, we'll make sure it's sitting in the right spot. We'll lay this down. And now we can flip this over and we can add adhesive right behind where the white circle lies. And that's where we can place the seal adhesive. Okay, we're going to do some embellishing now. We're going to tuck some leaves. So we don't want to press this down fully yet. We're going to tuck some leaves here and there. You know what? I think I'm going to move this down just a tad. I know it's going to seem off center, but it's going to be all right. We're going to press some leaves right in here and in here. I think another one down here, and I think I'm going to tuck that one under the vellum. Oh, that's looking so pretty. And now we can take this off. See, I told you not to press it down yet, right? And we can add a little bit more adhesive just behind these leaves here, just to secure them. And I think we're going to need to do the same thing with our one right here. Let's add some adhesive behind it. You can, of course, use those glue dots. Let's go ahead and do that. Then these beautiful artistry blooms sequins. We're going to finish the card off by adding some of those. Oops, got away from me. Now you see what I've got here is some embellishments on this side that tends to stick up. Now at this point we're going to put some of the glue dots from the kit again into and behind in that spot. So we'll do a couple glue dots there. Now if you don't have the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine or the ability to do embossed vellum, that's okay. We're going to do a simpler version of this card real quick. And we're still going to use some vellum, but just in a different way. So I'm going to cut 1 inch off. We're going to fold. And silly me, I should have actually cut off 7/8 of an inch first and then cut at the 1 inch amount. But now we need to use that sticky note again. So we're going to come in and we're going to bring it to the 7/8 inch mark here, because I want to use that same idea of a white line. Okay, that's a scrap here. But we're going to add this to this outer edge, like that. Then we'll bring in our vellum and we'll leave it a full circle like that. And we're going to add some adhesive right behind it in the center. And I'm going to kind of off center and I'm going to bring it down a bit. And that is why you don't want to just put adhesive behind vellum. All right, next we're going to add some leaves and a sentiment piece. Let's go ahead and stamp on this. And then we're going to tuck the leaves in and around and kind of see where they look best. And when you have them sort of where you want them, then you want to put this piece on top. We want to avoid putting any adhesive along this side though, so I'm just going to flip it over and I'm going to avoid that portion behind this circular piece. So we've left that clean of adhesive. Now that one doesn't want to come. Okay, we'll just have to tuck it ourselves. But then you'll want to come back and you'll want to add more adhesive to the back side, again avoiding that area. And you can certainly add some adhesive along these leaves here, but again be careful to avoid putting any adhesive along that side. But I think I have enough to hold it. And then we can add some of those embellishments again. Now you can certainly use the embellishments from the kit. They look like little tiny white rocks. We also have a couple other products that look like little rocks. These are more like pebbles, I suppose, because they're called pebbly enamel shapes. And then we've got these, which are the faux sea glass shapes, and I've loved them up. I've used up almost all the white and almost all the blue. I have some green ones left in there too. You can actually color on these pieces with our blends markers, so you would not have to actually invest in the faux sea glass shapes. You could instead take and color your own to get different colors. Now that's the old olive color, that's the dark, and this is the light, and it looks pretty close to that. Let's see here, that's the darker jade. Let's try the lighter jade, although the darker jade looks pretty good. So yeah, you can experiment. I'm going to let those dry for just a couple seconds and then I'm going to add them to my card. And there we have a fun collection of little rocks down at the bottom. And on the inside, I've stamped the word congratulations, just like the other cards. So again, you don't need to have any of the machinery or the embossing folders or dies or whatever, but I just wanted to show you that really cool effect that happens when you emboss on vellum. This is super cute too. So I got an idea in my head when I brought out the blends markers. There's a technique you can do with the vellum that comes in the kit. We're going to go ahead and color on the vellum with our blends markers. I'm just putting a few colors down, and then I'm going to use a spritzer. And I have one of our spritzers here filled with 99% rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. And I'm just going to spritz onto the alcohol markers here to get them to kind of run. Now I'm going to use my heat tool, and I'm going to use the low setting and just kind of manipulate the color. You can see it's already starting to blend together. You can even just tip the vellum around, move it in different directions. In fact, that might look really pretty. And now we'll dry it a bit. The heat tool will also manipulate the color and move it. If you want a little bit more of another color, you can come back in and add that and spritz it again. I actually have some color from the last one that I experimented with off camera here. So hang on, I'm going to clean it up. There we go. Now let's go ahead and spritz this. And then again, if you want to, you can use the heat tool to help it to dry faster. But I'm really liking this soft blended look of the two different greens. So now we're going to take and add that to a card. Instead of folding our card with the color on the outside, we're going to have it on the inside. And that way we have this nice bright white to show off our beautiful alcohol wash vellum piece. Now I know I'm going to have my sentiment going through the center, but I first want to stamp. I've added dimensionals to the back side because it's going to pop up and away, and that creates a shadow underneath so that you can really see the green under the green. And then these leaves are going to get tucked under as well. So if I want them to come out like that, then I want to place my dimensionals on top. I want to pick it up, and I want to add some adhesive across the back sides. And you can even come through into these other areas, maybe add those glue dots from the kit. And then again, before putting the vellum in place, we want to make sure that we've got our pieces on top of it where they want to go. And then we can turn the whole thing over, and this is where we can add all the other adhesive that's going to go on the vellum. Such a fun artsy look. And then on the inside we need a place to write. So you can take some pieces from that envelope that we cut up and we can add them. The size of this one is 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. And there's the card. And here is one more version. This time I added those self-adhesive sequins and some of that beautiful Fresh Freesia open weave ribbon. Gorgeous, right? I love that alcohol ink technique. Super easy. I have one more card to share that I think you're going to enjoy. So we're going to take and cut some basic white cardstock down to a quarter sheet, which is 5.5 by 4.25. And then we're going to use one of the card bases in the kit, and we're going to cut this to 4 inches. Actually, you know what? I'm cutting it wrong. I'm going to cut it to 3 3/4 inches. Sorry. And then by 4 inches in this direction. Then from this piece, we're going to cut a 2-inch, actually just slightly less, a 1/16 of an inch less than 2 inches. So we're cutting it just under 2 inches wide, so it's 2 inches by 5.5. We're going to score this piece at 2 and then 2.25. And this piece we're going to cut a few squares from. So we're going to cut 2.5, actually 2 squares, 2.5 by 2.5. And then the other one, we're going to cut 2 1/8 by 2 1/8. Now we're bringing back this larger piece, and we're going to have it in the vertical direction, and we're going to bring it to the 2-inch mark on our trimmer, and we're going to cut a slit that goes from the 3 to the 1. So you're going to follow by just placing your blade down and slicing from the 3 to the 1. Then we're going to lift this up, and we're going to bring it to 2.25, and we're going to do it again from the 3 to the 1. So we're cutting a 1/4 inch wide slit that's 2 inches long and centered. And now what we can do is, and I was going to trim it with the trimmer, but you know what, let's do it this way so we know it's for sure 2 inches. So we're going to bring it to the 1-inch mark here, and we're just going to cut right across in that little section. And if you don't get it all the way across, that's okay. You can take your snips and cut it by hand. And then again, cut right there so that we're cutting this little section out. And you can see I didn't get it quite all the way. It is going to be covered up, so we won't see this. This piece is going to get mounted onto here with dimensionals, 1 in each corner. We're going to place that like that. We're not going to stick it down yet though. This is going to be something that's not seen too. It's the little mechanism that's going to work for us. And we're going to fold it on those 2 score lines and give it a good crease. That's going to get inserted in through this little hole like that. So you're going to notice a slight difference in some of the pieces. This one does not have a score line through it anymore, and this has a little tear on it. That's because I thought I was recording, and I went pretty far and realized I wasn't recording, so I had to disassemble the card. So here we go. This piece again is going to go in through here, and what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 lengths of the tear and tape adhesive. Okay, now we're going to lay this piece on our grid paper so that we kind of have everything nice and straight. We can use the lines of the grid paper to eyeball it. We're going to bring that to the 1/4 inch mark just beyond this edge. We're going to flatten out at the 2nd score line here, and we're going to adhere. Now you should be able to see everything lined up and squared. You should be able to see a small gap here and a small gap here from that hole. And we're going to really make sure that that is creased. We're going to fold it on the 2nd one. Oops, should have done this before. Make sure that that's creased. Okay, so this is our little mechanism that will open and close our card. Now what we want to do is we want to stamp on these pieces here. So on this one, we're going to stamp Happy Birthday, and we're using soft suede ink. I better stamp it down here to make sure I have no ink on it. And we're going to ink up just the happy. And clean off your stamp, and then come and ink up just the word birthday. This is going to go on the inside of the card. On this side, we're going to do the "You're amazing, you are so amazing." Okay. This piece is going to get stuck onto this 1/4 inch wide section here, which actually looks smaller than a 1/4 inch now. We're going to tear off a piece of tear and tape, and we're going to stick it on here. We're going to pull the backing off with the help of the Take Your Pick tool this time. My fingernails don't always work. Oh, sometimes the Take Your Pick tool doesn't always work. There we go. Okay, now you can see there's a slight overlap or extension of that adhesive, and we're just going to go ahead and press that over onto itself so it's just along this little scored area here. Then we can flatten it out again and attach this piece like so. Burnish it, make sure it's pressed on nice and hard. And you see what's happening? Isn't that fun? Oh my gosh. This piece is going to get stuck on here, so we can just put adhesive right on this spot. And stick this down. And that, because it's slightly taller than that 2-inch little gap that we made, it's 2 1/8 inches, it's going to cover up the gap. Okay? Very fun, very fun. Okay, on this piece, we're going to stamp the yay in the upper corner. And now we can stick this down onto our card. Okay, now we have another item to add. We haven't played around with our elephant much yet. We did add him to one card, but we're going to attach him to this portion of the pull. So in order to do that, we want to have this whole thing flat, and you can see when it's flat, it's the shortest. We're going to add some tear and tape there. And again, it goes a little bit beyond. So once it's added, we're going to push that back onto itself. Flatten it back down. Add our little elephant in here so we can see the word yay. And so that we're still covering up that little part. And when we pull this, there it is. Happy birthday! Too fun! Let's embellish it. So I added some partial leaves here, another leaf on the inside, and then some of those self-adhesive sequins. There is that finished card. Super cute! Now that you've watched my video, I hope you can see that there is so much more to these kits than meets the eye. With just a few extra supplies and some imagination, you can go beyond and make so much more. Want to give these paper pumpkin kits a try? They're just $23.50 plus tax per month in the US. Shipping is included. You control which months you get your kits, and there's no commitment or obligation. And by clicking on my personalized link below and starting your subscription with me as your demonstrator, you'll have access to my exclusive paper pumpkin project ideas too. Thank you for watching. It builds creativity to think outside the box. To access paper pumpkin kit ideas that I'll share in the future, be sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel and my website, because I share even more each month in other special blog posts. In fact, click on my website link below so that you can access the visual supply list and view close-up photos of all that I've shared today. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Now I'd like you all to go and stamp your art out. Bye-bye.